Hi, this is James Gordon here for a book review. Today's book we'll be talking about today, CV by Damon Knight. This is from Torg, first published in May 1985. This edition's from March 1986. This was a really disappointing science fiction novel. Despite having this gorgeous cover artwork, like this cover artwork is amazing. This is the kind of cover artwork I love seeing from like 80s, 90s, and older like books and stuff. Despite having this gorgeous cover, this book was a real bore. I picked this book after playing some Bioshock a couple of weeks ago, and I was like in the mood to read some like novel set out and scene stuff, and I saw this, and I was like, oh, this kind of reminded me of Bioshock and a little bit of System Shock 2, and I thought, oh, this should be a fun read. I go to read this. Well, it has an interesting like an interesting setting, and it has a really interesting like setting. However, the rest of the book is just boring as hell. None of the characters are likable. They're all flat, dull. There's nothing that really makes them stand out. And the plot of this book is just absolutely terrible. It starts off as one thing, then shifts into another thing, and then towards the end, it's like going this like really weird direction. Like, what the hell is going on with this story? I don't get where the author is going with this. So overall, this was just not a good book at all, but as you know, as they say, we can't like everything. I'll explain my many issues and problems with this book. Alright, onto the review. Plot. Sea adventure known as CV, the most advanced and largest submersible ever built. Able to hold over 2,000 people on board as it serves both as a luxury resort for vacation and a place to live. It has a movie theater, restaurants, casinos, gym, laboratory, hangar, hospital, swimming pool, living quarters for both its residents and crew. On board the CV also has its own security team led by Stanley Bliss. One of its residents, Dr. Ellen Newland, is part of a project on doing research for future living on both in the sea along with space travel. Wishing to help the human race as the planet is becoming overpopulated, India and Africa are going through famine, and in South America, acid rains are damaging the jungles along with ongoing wars. However, there are some in the U.S. that are against this project and wish to terminate it, believing it would be too costly. But Dr. Newland refuses, and despite being bound in a wheelchair, he continues with his work and tries to avoid going to public places and keeps a low profile. However, a reporter from the Toronto Star, Anne Bonanno, found out he was on board despite not listing his name on the passenger records. Dr. Newland keeps the interview short, with his personal bodyguard, Al Winter, is with him at all times. Unknown to them, a highly trained and deadly assassin, Sir Drip, going under the alias of John Stevens, has been hired to kill Dr. Newland and to ensure his murder is unsolvable. After CV is pulled away from the English islands by tugs, it then submerges itself and travels underwater using the current. As everyone is enjoying themselves with the elderly couple, Mr. and Mrs. Wolf, are enjoying themselves. Serger plays the casino while studying the layout of CV as he begins plotting Dr. Newland's assassination. Suddenly, a mysterious illness begins occurring on board CV. People begin feeling ill, then collapse as they're in a coma-like state. The head doctor on board, Wallace McNulty, is trying to find a cure as more people are dropping like flies. CV is put under quarantine with all events cancelled and people being forced to leave their living quarters to make more room for the ill passengers. With the virus spreading throughout CV and more of its passengers becoming ill, Dr. McNeedy is trying to find the answer to cure everyone before the death toll increases. At the same time, Sergio begins questioning his actions of his mission along with having feelings for a woman he met on board CV. Then Dr. McNeedy believes he can communicate with the virus after discovering it's intelligent. But people who have been affected become hostile and violent towards others, which could lead to chaos and rioting. Can the doctors find a cure for this virus before everyone else is infected, or is CV doomed? CV was a slow, dull, and very boring sci-fi thriller. While the idea of the CV itself was interesting and liked how it looked, it was a massive ship with living quarters and labs, kind of reminded me of video games like Bioshock and System Shock 2. The detail was good as I could envision what CV looked like along with its characters. However, it lacked both a plot and interesting characters. First, it starts off as a political thriller with talks about sending people to space along with building more CV-like vessels, with others against this idea for some strange reason which isn't explained well. Then an assassin is brought on board to kill one of the head scientists. Then it shifts into a medical/disaster thriller with a mysterious virus infecting the crew and passengers. However, I felt this was all happening too fast, as I was expecting it to start off slow to get to know more of the characters before the plot gets going, but the author just rushes things. There's a lot of talking and not much happening, along with the plot getting confusing at times, as I don't know where the author is going with the story. Towards the end, the author just throws in that the virus is intelligent, along with the characters acting strange or hostile towards each other, and none of the characters were interesting to follow. They all fell flat, dull, and unlikable despite having good detailed description. The further I read more CV, the more bored I got with it, and lacking any action or something happening. I was thinking this was going to be about something else, but what I got instead was just sucked. Overall, I don't recommend CV, one of the most boring sci-fi novels I have read. Despite having a sharp cover artwork, pass on this novel. You can find better 80s sci-fi novels than this one. Alright, that's for the review today. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, this is just another short and simple one. There's not really a lot to talk about. This book was just really boring. Well, I thought the whole idea of this large submersible, it's known as this Sea Adventure, or just CV for short. It had a really interesting design to it and look. The author is very detailed on the layout of it, and as I said while reading it, it was making me think of video games like Bioshock and System Shock 2, just the way how those games are. They're set out well. Bioshock is set in the bottom of the sea, while System Shock 2 is out in space. But just you're the character, these characters are on this massive vessel, and the way the story is described, just that's what it reminded me of while reading it. So I thought, okay, so it's about this it's about this high tech vehicle that uses the current of the sea to move underwater and stuff, and it's got everything. It's got movie theaters, a gym, a mall, restaurants, casinos, all the luxuries that you could imagine will go on a cruise ship to basically for people to enjoy themselves, relax, and just have fun. So first, it kind of starts off as a sci-fi political thriller where it's about this head scientist is trying to get space travel going, but there's this bill that's trying to prevent it, and it's not really well explained, and it's why would there be a bill trying to prevent people from traveling to space? It didn't really make much sense. And head scientist has a reason for wanting to push this because the Earth is becoming overpopulated, and there's there's famine and in countries, and then there's acid rain, and there's ongoing wars and stuff. And then this assassin that's brought on board, that's been hired to kill the head doctor. So I thought, okay, so this is going to be a sci-fi political thriller book. But then the author decides to shift the whole genre into a medical/disaster thriller instead, where now there's a mysterious virus, people are being infected, they're in a coma-like state, and as the infection spreads, it's causing other people to act strange, become violent, hostile towards each other. And I was like, what the hell is going on? And then the assassin later on, John Stevens, even though it's not his real name, that's the as he goes under, he begins to have feelings towards a woman he met, and then begins questioning his actions for the mission. I was like, what is this? And then this doctor guy thinks he can communicate with the bacteria after the virus after discovering it's intelligent. I thought, wait a minute, where have I read this before? Oh yes, Isaac Asimov's Nemesis. The more I read CV, the more I begin to be reminded of that awful Isaac Asimov novel Nemesis, where it's the same thing. It's this sci-fi novel that's set far in the future. It deals with the Earth being overpopulated and crowded, just like CV. And then there's intelligent bacteria in it, which causes characters to act strange. And I thought, this is what it's making me think of. That's what it was reminding me when I was reading more of it. And the further I progressed with it, I was like, come on, is something going to happen or what? I'm getting bored here. No, nothing happens. It's just lots and lots of talking, and I was really just getting bored reading this. I'm not expecting action, tons of action. as long as the story is well written and good, then I'll enjoy it. But this just had too much talking and not enough happening. I was like, this is really getting boring. And then towards the end, I was like, you know what, I'm done. I was just, the story was just not interesting me anymore, and I was just like, I had enough. I thought the whole premise of, like, the whole idea of it was interesting, but to me, I felt the author, he fails to make the story interesting with likable characters to follow. There's not really any characters that I liked in it. The author also fails to explain things that are going on in the story, like why would there be people against the idea of like space travel and trying to get more of these CV like submersibles being built. Like it doesn't, the author doesn't explain why that, like it doesn't explain if there's like a rival company that's trying to outdo this other company, or just trying to make people live on Earth. Like again, it's not well explained. When it introduces the assassin character, I was expecting him to have like some like high tech like gadgets and stuff to use for his mission. Nope, he doesn't have any of that. I was like, how are you supposed to kill this guy on this thing? What, you're gonna use your bare hands or something? And well, it's not, the year is not mentioned, but there's a part in the story. One of the characters was thinking about after being infected with the virus, begins to think about something in the past that they blocked out, which is like 1973, and it said it's been over 25 years since like this character lost her like child or something. So I put on my phone calculator, and it said the year that the story takes place is supposedly 1998. So I thought, okay, so it's an alternate future. I like alternate future settings, but I wish the author could, like wrote that in the book, saying what year the story takes place in. Yeah, so the more I just read of it, the more bored I got with it, and then there's like characters are acting really strange and weird, and I was just getting bored. I said, you know what, I'm done with this. I felt if the author built up the plot with more likable characters, get to know every one of them as the story progressed, and then towards the middle, then have things start happening in the story. I felt this would have been better if it was more of like a sci-fi like political thriller. That would have been more interesting. The whole virus thing I didn't really like, and yeah, if the author did that, then it probably would have been a lot better. But as I say, we can't like everything. Alright, that's sort of the video today. I hope you enjoyed. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our library review channel where I post book reviews, book hauls, our fictional content. Until then, I'll catch you later.